Hello everyone and welcome back to Riverview, our sort of realistic North American themed metropolitan area here in Cities Skylines 2. In the most recent episode we continued our improvements to the public transit network, but we also revamped the off-ramp here from the Riverview Expressway so that instead of connecting directly to Sycamore Street, which did cause some traffical issues, we've created an elevated segment instead, connecting it directly to Birdsong Street. Most commuters seem to turn left here, feeding directly onto Sunnyside Avenue and all the workplaces of downtown. We also added 3 new transit lines. We added an express line for our bus network as well as 2 tram lines. So if we take a look at the tram lines first, I haven't yet named them. I'll have to pick some of the suggestions you guys have given me. But the first tram line, the red line, basically connects directly from the downtown hub here, serves a couple of spots alongside the northern stretch of Sycamore Street, and then it serves this new Dig Yard area, this hipster-rich tech area that we created a few episodes ago. The other line we created, Tram Line 3, is our first express line on the tram network, and it goes directly from the downtown hub here and all the way out to downtown East Riverview. So it's only got 2 stops with 5 trams, but the usage is very high, as you guys can see. There's a lot of demand to be able to move directly between the 2 downtowns. And then last but not least, we did add the RTA 6E Riverview Express line here, which pretty much serves the same purpose as this express tram line, except it has a few more stops and it's a little faster. So essentially what this orange line does is that it utilizes the 2 bridges we have over Love Island here to create a very quick direct connection to downtown East Riverview as well. And as we can see, usage is very satisfactory. Today we are going to do the transportation hub overhaul that I had also planned to at least start in the most recent episode, but was unable to do because of some mod issues. These issues have now been removed due to some new updates, so I'm now able to delete these segments that I couldn't do before and actually expand the hub. So it's going to be very interesting. And to provide a bit of context for you guys that aren't in the loop, the reason we want to revamp some of the hub infrastructure here is that when things get really busy during rush hour, things get really bad alongside these 2 intersections. This stretch is just too short and there's a very high demand for buses passing through this area, trams passing through this area, and there's a lot of pedestrian activity as well. So the idea is to basically remove this intersection entirely, maybe just keep a pedestrian crossing, and then have the BRT lanes as well as the tram lines connect down here at this crossing between Emerson Street and Sycamore Street. It's gonna create a bit of a big ugly intersection, but I'm pretty confident it's going to relieve some of the traffic issues we're seeing during peak hours. So first steps are obviously just some demolition duty work. So I'm just gonna de-zone some of this stuff here and remove these buildings. Then we are gonna pause, remove this stretch of Cypress Street. I still need a connection here due to the 2 parking lots that we have at the Riverview Central Station. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and grab a small alleyway, and then we're just gonna do a connection like this and connect right in here. The reason I don't want to just go straight is that the elevation here is actually quite high, so I kind of want to avoid that. And I can create this little lane here and just remove a single row house, and the rest are perfectly in place. Now, of course, an additional benefit of revamping the hub in this direction here is that we get a bit more space to actually expand some of these existing dedicated BRT segments where we can have additional stops. We can have additional tram stops as well. So to kind of realize that, we're just gonna delete these connections here, and then just to get a quick overview of what we're working with, I'm just going to grab the tram tracks and just expand them straight, and then we're just gonna curve them into this crossing here. Maybe that's a little too rough, like this. And we don't have to worry about a connection to this track here, because All trams that move north alongside Sycamore Street are expected to actually enter the hub here, and the only trams that move south, so there are only trams basically that move south alongside this stretch here, which means that we can move in and remove this track here, so that this is actually a pretty smooth turn, but we can make it even smoother, remove it of course. But before we do any of that, we are gonna get rid of this traffic light here because it is causing a host of issues. We'll use our traffic mod here to remove these connections. There we go, and I'll do the very same here. I don't want to allow for any U-turns here, and I don't actually want to allow for the cars to get, well, maybe like that. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna keep this crossing here because otherwise it's gonna be quite a bit of a distance up here, and I want to avoid having people cross here. I am looking into the possibility of elevated, you know, pedestrian bridges as well, but there isn't a lot of space here, so I'm gonna try and see if this is gonna work out, just for starters at least. It seems that for my bus network, I've got a few waypoints here. Just gonna remove those, and hopefully the lines are not gonna start acting up, but it seems like they've kind of adjusted just fine. And we're of course not done, because we'll need to expand this connection to also include a BRT segment. Before we do that though, we are gonna expand Dean Street here a bit so that we can kind of visualize the extra space we're getting. So something like this is probably fine. That's going to allow for 2 extra stops at least. And then I'm thinking we would want a direct connection to the alley here. Something like this. And then obviously we're going to have a direct connection to the segment up here. And there are a couple of ways we can do this. We can remove this and then have a shared segment between buses and trams. That's probably gonna look the coolest actually, so I think we're gonna do that. So I'll just see if creating a direct connection here is gonna work out. I'll get these trees out of the way. And then we're gonna adjust the position of the sun. Yoink. So that we know what we're working with. And then I'm just gonna try and upgrade to have some tram tracks here, and then we'll see how it looks. Looks all right. It's a bit of a sharp turn here, so maybe, just maybe, I can make that a little nicer. Yep. And while we're at it, let's get all these segments pulled back a little to create some smoother transitions and turns. And that is probably fine. It's not the prettiest of intersections, but I'm pretty confident this is going to be more efficient than our previous setup. So, and I mean, in theory, we could actually have extra stops here as well. But I think for starters, let's see, I'm just going to upgrade these 2 BRT tracks. And then obviously, I mean, we can even have an extra stop here. But I want to kind of continue the theme of having this be a one-way, so we'll just have to keep in mind that... Oh wait, it can actually turn here, so it's not a big issue. Never mind. Never mind. This is really giving us a lot of extra room to work with. And we'll continue with the same theme here, adding some planters here. And that is probably a good start at least. So let's just try and tweak this a little further, get rid of some of the many crossings. We'll be adding some planters here for good measure. Get rid of this crossing, crossings everywhere, something like this. And then we can add in the extra stops just to see the new possibilities that's giving. Why is that? Okay, so we'll add a stop here and Guess down here we've got 2 places for new stops as well. Oh, this one is a little short, but yeah, we'll see how that actually works. We can have a stop here at the very least. And then one cool thing is that we can relocate this tram stop to this segment over here, so that when we've got a tram getting into the hub, stopping here to allow for boarding, which does take quite a while in this game, then if we have additional trams that need to enter this space as well, they're not gonna be blocked off at this point here, because we've seen that before. And it's like, yeah, having, you know, a tram stick out into the roundabout isn't really conducive for good traffic flow, that's for sure. So that's a nice benefit of this change as well, that we can move this stop. So we might as well just do that actually, and of course that is going to require a revamp of our detailing, but that is required anyways. So we'll move that over there, and the stops automatically connected, so that's nice. And that is actually the only line that is utilizing that stop, right? Yeah, but that's because we need to fix up the red line. We'll probably, if we can add a waypoint here, yoink, then that's all fixed up. Gonna start the simulation, because hopefully all lines are sufficiently configured. I don't have any like alarming error messages at least popping up, so that's a good start. And I think the next step is probably going to do a bit of detailing. We're going to, of course, just expand on the existing kind of theme we've got going here with these weird shapes with surfaces, and how we've integrated the pavement paths and stuff like that. So I think the first part is probably just getting this path here, if I can, without issue, connected to the road here, and hopefully I can just move that up here. I don't know why that's causing graphical issues, but I guess that's all right. And then we've got the surfaces here to just continue. I might as well see if I can get a little segment in place here, and this time without any glitching, so that's very fortunate. And then let's see, we've already got surfaces picked up, so I should just be able to expand on the existing stuff I've got here. And I gotta be careful, because it's super easily just removed if you make a one wrong selection. But so far things are working out all right, and we'll just continue with the weird shape. We might as well just expand that all the way actually up here, so we've got a bit of extra tiles. And then I'll of course be adding in the well manicured grass to this segment here. So we're just gonna grab my existing tiles here and expand those, and it is going to be much the same over here, where we'll need to have tiles kind of continue alongside here, because we'll have people actually walking here. So let's see, I'm trying to get this to look sort of well aligned. And we'll just make a really simple setup like this, and then I think we'll have a path here. And over here we've just used invisible paths actually, so we might as well just do the same here. Add in the invisible connection to the sidewalk, and in this direction here. And we should probably just connect that through, and then fix the surface here as well. And adding in just a few extra segments. All right. And then we can fix up the surfaces. And these are all tangled together, so I'm so going to end up destroying something. Oh, that actually worked. But is this going to work? Oh, it is. Big surprise here. Gets a bit finicky to work with. But it seems like it's actually working out just moving my existing stuff, which is fairly nice. And I'll probably be adding an additional connection here, because this is where we've got this major crossing. So I think that would make sense. An additional crossing here for the pedestrians. Nice. And then for the manicured grass surface, just to fill up the empty areas in here. And I think we'll add in another crossing here. And we'll probably have to bring this down a bit because people are walking on the grass, and oh my, we can't have that. That's not very civilized. I'm seeing that cargo trains are passing through the same tracks where we've got our main commuter stops, so hopefully tweaking a few lines here. Let's see, this is the cargo route. Can I make that pass? Oh, this is a single line, so we're just gonna, I think we're just gonna have it pass through this segment instead, because that's a lot, there's a much less activity here. We will just, come on, there you go. That should work. And then we've got a node here looking a little funky. So maybe if we just drag this, it's going to look, yeah, it's already looking much better. And the same here. Cool, a few train tweaks. There'll be more, we'll need more train lines as well, don't worry. Anyways, just gonna carry on and carry over this detailing over here where we've got new stops. Oh, and the flora we've got as well, so we can fortunately just use the picker tool to select what we want and continue the very same theme. And seems like the distance is about 3 meters. Yeah. And I obviously have to be more strict with the traffic rules for this pedestrian street. Why are cars even allowed to drive here? Is that because it's going to complain if they can't? Can I do something like this? So this one, the only access here is a U-turn, and the only access here is going to be a U-turn. So I'm just going to completely cut these cars off. I don't want cars driving here in the first place. That was the entire point. Our new express line seems to be quite popular. How many people are here? 588. Oh boy. So it's kind of busy. Let's see if we can... We can't even assign more vehicles. We can only assign 6, and I guess that's calculated based on the fact that there are only 4 stops, which is very annoying. But I have noticed that there is a mod on the... I wanted to say the workshop, but on PDX mods that allows you to assign as many vehicles or as few vehicles as you want. So I'm probably gonna grab that for the next episode and see if that works, so that I have full freedom to manipulate this, especially if we do like some very direct rural lines where we maybe only want 1 or 2 vehicles. That could be very interesting as well. So I'm going to grab that because I can't increase the amount of buses assigned currently, and it's a bit of a shame because these stops here just really require a ton of buses. And I guess if we take a look at the red line here, then that's actually it's okay. It's still a very, very busy line, even though a lot of the load has carried over to the orange line now. Oh well. But I mean, I guess all these people would otherwise be in cars if we didn't have all this in place, so things would be even worse, I hope. But it's, yeah, pretty crazy. And we are starting to see these no vehicles pop up affect us more and more. And the reason is, as we also touched on in the most recent episode, my tram depot is just maxed out and I can't upgrade it any further. So we're gonna have to build an additional tram depot. And I think I'm going to build it over here in East Riverview, where we've got some tram connections as well. We've got a bit of an open space here, where we currently have some pretty cozy, very wealthy inner city neighborhoods, and I can understand that because you're in walking distance to everything, so it must be nice to live here. But we're gonna demolish it and add in a tram depot instead. So we're gonna start getting the zoning out of the way, remove all of this stuff here, evict these rich people. This would never happen in a realistic US city. These guys have too much lobbying power, but it's gonna happen in Riverview. And let's go grab a tram depot. There you go. And I mean, we can just create a pretty direct connection without it being much of an issue, I guess. Or we could just move it one road back, which might be a bit more of an interesting look, really. So I think we're just gonna, let's see, we're just gonna grab the street here and continue that for a little stretch here, then remove this. And we'll upgrade this lane here. Move these guys out of the way. Perhaps just this kind of connection here. And we can use this opportunity to just make this segment of East Riverview a little more dense. It's got some very nice low density park landscape here. It is very nice, but we've got loads of demand for residential, so why not just use this opportunity to get a bit more zoning in. So let's just see the size of this one. Okay, so we can move that back by about 4 tiles. So I think that is something I would like to do by just adding in a little road here, so that maybe we can add a bit of parking or something. And obviously that was a bit too much. Ugh, bummer. So let's just go in here instead. And we'll place down the depot. And get the tram connection going. Get that all connected. And this is too crazy a turn for any tram. So we're gonna really manipulate this node here. This is probably alright. And the first tram has already spawned, so that's perfect. Just gonna get rid of these Anarchy trees while we are working in this general area here. And then we've got a bit of a funny space here where we might just add in yeah, we might just add in an alley, get a few row houses in place. That didn't work. I start acting up. Oh, there's a bit of elevation difference here. I'll just get that fixed. Alright, so it's not exactly the most detailed of builds, but we did need the extra tram depot capacity, and I think it's turned out all right. It fits in pretty neatly. There's a bit of a like a barrier here almost between some of the lower density stuff and then slow increases in density. There are some public housing here, of course, as well as some student housing, but generally there's like a steady increase in density with the main road here having the most density, and then as we travel north it gets really dense up here. Anyways, I've noticed an issue. Let's see, where are we? I've noticed an issue over here, and we can't see it right now, but the issue is that if we've got buses, you know, right here waiting for a green signal, and the tram is trying to actually enter the tram tracks, then there's gonna be an issue because the tram can't actually pass. So my whole idea of having these connected through this small segment here is just not really gonna work out, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to remove the bus tracks. I'll just enable Anarchy. And probably have to remove this segment as well, because we'll have it we'll have a dedicated tram track instead. That's what we're gonna need. So let's see if we can get some proper alignment here. And if I can do something like this, that would be preferable, because then I have some space here to connect the dedicated bus line. And fortunately for me, I don't think I need as much space. I can just kind of find somewhere here where I can connect. Maybe, should I bring that all the way down here? Or maybe just do a connection like this. Yoink. And then obviously we can move in and see if we need to do a little manipulation here of the tracks, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. Maybe bring this back slightly. Otherwise, this should fix the issue we were having. And while it's not obvious right now, then if I just move the camera down here, you can probably see how I discovered this issue. So hopefully this is gonna fix it. I guess as a positive note, with that mishap now fixed, we are starting to see the benefit of having this tram segment here be much longer near the hub, because we can pretty much fit 4 trams in, just about. I think this careless dude in his Camaro is the one actively stopping all 4 trams to be able to fit here, but generally it's a pretty good improvement. And with a bit of extra detailing, it's starting to look pretty interesting, and we don't really have the backed up queue of trams anymore. So separating these two into their own separate segments was definitely a good idea. Something else I've done is remove the crosswalks here at a couple of places, because I can't get the agent to not use the crosswalks as an extension of their bus line queue. So I've resorted to doing this, which it's caused one bus to kind of act out weirdly. But other than that, it has made the queues look much better. I don't want to extend onto the road here, because that's causing a lot of issues. We do have a few lines here to just correct. So let's see if we had a waypoint. Why does it want to do that though? That's a bit weird. Can't it? I mean, this is a... What? Did I disable left turns here? Like some idiot? Come on. I'm just gonna check on that. No, it's fine. We'll try that again then. Add in a waypoint here. I'm a bit confused why it won't just turn left. Can I force it to do my bidding? I can, but okay. Anyways, I of course want them all to use the dedicated segment here, except for the express route, because that's supposed to take the bridge here. And with that said, there are quite a few buses in queue here. So this extension we've made here, turning it into a 5-laner, is probably something we should do a bit more of. So I'm just going to grab a massive segment here and expand it, and then fix this ugly node by just stretching that out. I think. Oh, I see what the problem with the red line is. It has to make a stop here on the right side of Bedford Street, but it can't. I mean, it can't do a U-turn down here, so that's why I tried to get onto this street so it could turn. That's a bit of a bummer, but I mean, I'm hopeful that should be an easy fix if I just grab a one-way line here, try and align that, and just bring that through like this. It's a bit of a crude fix, but it should be a fix nonetheless. And we'll get rid of the crossings here. Something like this should enable the red line to take a more interesting route. So if I grab this waypoint here and just... Oh, now it's gonna... Oh, I have to be careful with these waypoints. If you remember from the previous episode how I had completely messed up my tram network and by messing up my waypoints. So I want a waypoint here, but probably turning right here because it's the shortest route, but I don't want it to share it with other traffic. So this is the alignment I want. There we go. Okay, things are getting kind of complex down here. Could probably have simplified this a lot more, made a much more streamlined design, but yeah, where's the fun in that? So for those of you that don't know, I've been using the traffic simulation adjuster mod for ever since it came out, basically here in Riverview, and I've set it to 0, which is the value that generates the most amount of traffic, I guess, that the game allows for with the current size of the city. And it results in a lot of additional traffic. So I've just set it to 4, which corresponds to the vanilla value, and then let the simulation run for a bit, just to kind of see how things would actually settle. And things are actually looking pretty stable, and have been so for the past many minutes of just letting the simulation chug along. It tends to get a little crowded here, but I think it's more to do with the fact that all these transport vehicles spawn in bundles instead of grouping out. And you know, that's really causing an issue, but I can't really do much about that, at least not right now. But what I think we can do is we can try and optimize some of the current bus lines we've got, because if we just take a look at our overview, let's see here, we see very high usage for many of our lines, which is of course awesome. But if we actually dig deeper into how these lines are composed, it's very uneven how spread the activity is on each stop. So several stops here alongside the RTA1, this is the one that goes to the airport, have a ton of passengers waiting, and others are basically empty. And some of it is due to transport line overlap. So if we go to, let's see, 467 Madison Street, that's probably out here in, yeah, that's out here in Southside, very close to the airport. We see 0 passengers waiting here. There are a bunch waiting here to get to the airport or get further out from the core of the city. But generally the activity here is pretty low. And you also have a high capacity tram stop right here. So in that sense, it kind of, you know, makes sense. And they completely follow each other, these two lines. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the bus line, and instead of having it run alongside Elizabeth Street, we're gonna go down Emerson Street, then we're gonna turn right so that we can serve Foggy Street, which is also a major avenue out here, because then we should actually be able to get across this bridge and still end up in the at the airport, which is what we want. So we'll be removing a few stops. Actually, I should probably just add a few additional ones for starters. So we'll just have one on either side of the road here, near these very, very dense public housing projects. And then I'm thinking we'll also have a stop right here, and that's probably gonna be it. And we'll have to run it down there. So do we actually, I think we actually just remove these stops and let the tram network handle this, instead of, we're wasting a lot of time having the buses stop here at least, which isn't really all that ideal. So let's just get rid of these stops here. That already did create some of the change I want. We'll align on either side to this stop here. And let's see. Gotta do this without messing up. So these stops are not all that well utilized either. We've got tram stops right here. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those as well. And I'm just gonna check if we have any waypoints out here. I don't think that's the case. So if I move these lines and align it like this, then that is exactly what I want. And it's got a stop on, oh, it's only got a single stop, so that's fine. And it might be overkill to have the tram stop in front of the airport and the train station, seeing as these stops are so close. So what I think I'll be doing is I'll actually remove one of these stops. And it's probably gonna be the airline one. Just gonna delete it. If I can find the tiny bugger. There we go. So hopefully it's not gonna be too much of an issue when I remove these stops now. People should disperse and go take the tram line, or go down here if you want to take the bus. Go down Emerson Street and grab it down here. So I've just realized something which makes me feel really, really dumb and embarrassed, but I'm gonna tell you guys about it anyway. You guys recall how I created this express tram line in the previous episode? You know, 2 very popular stops, trams going directly to and from these, bypassing all the other stops for efficiency. You know, the whole point of an express line. Well, trams can't really overtake each other, not if they're on the same dedicated tracks. So lo and behold, to my surprise, as the quote-unquote express cars are stuck behind the blue line cars, which does stop everywhere. Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. There's only a few, I don't even know if there are any places where the quote-unquote express tram cars can actually bypass the slower ones. They can't do it here, like the tracks. All tracks going south leads into this segment here, serving the high school. So I don't think there's anywhere else they can do it. So, wow, I'm so smart. So I think the conclusion is that we are going to delete that line and then just add a few extra vehicles to our good old blue line. Oh boy, yeah, it's this one, right? Yep. We'll get rid of that, and then we'll move in here and we'll just assign a handful of new vehicles. Oh man. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't build any more transportation stuff today. I don't have the head for it. Maybe we should just upgrade some of these buildings instead, now that we've changed the hub, and after changing these to some more modern contemporary developments, I think we're gonna make a small overhaul of some of the buildings that are placed alongside Sycamore Street right here at the roundabout and the hub, because I mean, this has to be some of the most expensive real estate in the city. It's literally the heart of the city. You've got a great park landscape right behind. You've got stunning views of smoky industry, but other stuff as well. So I'm imagining this has to be even more fancy and dense than it is currently. But we'll start over here. We are gonna start small. We did have a pretty nice looking hotel here before I started demolishing some stuff. So let's grab the Find It mod. With the most recent update to the Find It mod, it's been easier than ever before to place really, really cool things and find exactly what you need, because we've got thumbnails now for all the buildings. So Yeah, wonderful stuff, really. So let's see. We had a fancy hotel before. I assumed it was level 5, but maybe it wasn't. Ah, there it is. It was only a level 2. Okay. And we'll just manually align it. Okay. And then here I think we can fit an office complex of some sort. So let's see if we can create a base first. We'll grab some low density office. And lot width can be free. And we'll just increase the levels because these buildings get a lot nicer looking with some higher levels. So we'll just create sort of a base we can place this skyscraper on. And this is probably a little too much, so we're gonna go for 2. See if we might be able to just stitch these 2 buildings together. Yoink. And yeah, that looks all right. Let's move in for some high density office so that we can add the actual tower to these buildings. This is gonna be this one though. Could go for a width of 3, I think. So it has to be either this one or the other one. I think this one is a little cooler looking perhaps. So if we can just align it so that it sticks out ever so slightly, but it still looks like it's part of the actual complex. Something like this. And then let's have a look. Yeah, that's pretty good. And we're doing just a tiny bit of detail so that it feels a little more well integrated. Adding in some paths here. Let's move on to the overhaul of this section of Sycamore Street. We might as well start over here. Just gonna make sure I clean out any zoning over here. Such, and we'll get rid of these 4 buildings at first. I think these ones are okay. And then let's see, we're about 5 tiles deep here, I'd say. Or 5 zoning tiles at least, so we'll go for 5, level 5 and 2. And just check what we can actually, oh, maybe it's just 4 actually. Right, we'll enable some snapping as well. And that presents us with some cool stuff. Let's just filter for high density as a start, and we get some nice buildings. We get this one here, which we're definitely gonna use. I think we're gonna place that. I think we're just gonna place that around here. Then let's see, medium density. Some really nice looking ones as well, although there was a specific, and this one, high density commercial that I would like to use. So I'll just get that placed, really showcasing how dense this area is getting. We're increasing to 3x4, and we could add a major skyscraper, or we could just increase the depth to 5. We can even go for 6. At this particular place. Oh, look at this towering beast. That's maybe a bit too much. Let's go for some medium density. Maybe this one. I mean, I know it's from the European theme, but it looks very, I mean, it could look like, you know, 1890s / turn of the century Chicago, New York architecture. So if I place that and maybe switch these around, how is that going to look? It's going to look sweet. Then we've got space for a row house here. Just pop this high level one in. Maybe see if I can align it a bit with the existing architecture. Like so. And then if I'm able to maybe squeeze in a building here, a very slim one, this one maybe, and then things are getting really dense. Just get that real close to the off ramp here without clipping into it, and then we'll just adjust this little row house here. There you go. That is a very visible upgrade, if you ask me. Really makes this block here a lot more dense, and we're gonna give this the same treatment. Let's get these slightly underwhelming assets out of the way. Some of these paths as well. Sweet. So we've got a big spot here. It's actually not that big, it's 3 deep. Okay. So we'll go for something like this. Ah, look. Look at this beauty. That's what I'm talking about. Just gonna check if there are any rivals. No, I think it's just gonna be this guy. What a fantastic looking asset. Yoink. And then flanking it by this beautiful older style looking high-rise. It's just perfect. Maybe squeezing this one in as well. Also a very, very nice looking asset. And I may just overlap the garage here ever so slightly. Should I use this one? I mean, it's such a cool asset. I have to use this one. Either I use this one or I remove the one behind it and we place something with a much larger footprint instead. We might opt for that as well, but I'm just gonna try and place this and just have a look. Man, that really looks fantastic from here. Just how dense the city is looking, and you've got skyscrapers in the distance even. These are flanking the central gardens. These ones down south. But of course it means that these are very, very tightly put together, although I guess I could technically move this one a bit forward with the Anarchy mod, or sorry, would move it without much issue. And I think that was a very nice change. It's giving off some Magnificent Mile or Fifth Avenue vibes, which is really cool. And it's been fun to build a little again. Some actual assets being placed down here. Wow. Anyways, I think it's time I wrap up because I'm really running out of time here. There's one last thing I want to mention, and that is that if you haven't given a suggestion for what to build here on this big former site of the old bus station, then you've still got time to post a suggestion here on this video here, as I'll be checking comments on this video and the most recent one as well to find some inspiration for this. So yeah, just a heads up, if maybe you're a real estate developer or real estate tycoon sitting out there and you've got grand plans for this very central location, let me know in the comments. It's gonna be fun seeing some of the suggestions. Anyways, a lot of rambling, a lot of traffic debugging, or attempts at it at least, in this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and all the support, and I hope to see you all in the next one. I'm gonna shoot some cinematics for you all. Goodbye.